need pull as a source of innovation. We've already looked at this question of where do innovations come from, and we've seen that there are multiple sources, so we do need to make sure we search as widely as possible. There are two classes. Broadly, there's knowledge push, where new knowledge creates opportunity, and demand or need pull, where opportunities come from meeting needs. And they're both important. They work often well together, rather like the blades of a pair of scissors. We've seen that innovation opportunities arise right along a spectrum, from the incremental, doing what we do better, where we're really concerned with exploiting knowledge that we already have, right the way through to the radical, do something different end, where we're essentially concerned with searching by exploring the new frontier. So, what are the different ways we might pick up on user needs, on demand pull innovation? Well, one of the things that we can find a whole range of opportunities in is by making things better. So it's very much the do better, and it's classically the squeaking wheel challenge. You know the idea? You're driving something along and squeak, 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 the wheel squeaks. Clearly we need to do something. We could just put some oil on it, but maybe the wheel has gone out of shape. So we're beginning to think about how we might improve that to make it better. Innovation. Now this of course applies in products, in services, and in processes. Right across our innovation spectrum, many opportunities for making things better, improving what's already there. So it's essentially a need pull, but this one is very much around optimizing, about fixing things, about improving things. Do what we do better. Now, one of the big areas where this innovation has had major implications is in the field of quality. 100 years back, we were used to accepting rather poor quality. We used to talk about percentage defects. That means in 100 products, maybe 1 or 2 of them might already be bad. These days we talk about parts per million defects. There's been a huge wave of innovation aimed at gradually and systematically improving quality. And it's the same with time saving, with cost reduction and many other things. What we've learned is that squeaking wheel, this continuous improvement, is a rich source of innovation. Do what we do better. And one of the powerful forces which has very much worked in that space is the idea around what's sometimes called lean thinking. Now, lean thinking is essentially mobilizing the power of focused waste reduction. Anything that adds cost anywhere and not value is a potential source of innovation. We can optimize, we can fix that, we can improve towards that. The concept began in the car industry. Quite specifically, it was around looking at how we made cars, and the big discovery in a major research program in the 1980s was that when comparing car plants, the best car plants in the world weren't just a little better. On average, they were twice as good as the rest on many measures. Twice as productive, using half the inventory, using half the labor hours, producing half the quality problems, essentially a 2-to-1 advantage. That concentrated the minds of many manufacturers in the world towards an innovation agenda. How do we deal with this? What lessons can we learn? Basically, what came out of that particular study was the idea that we should look for low waste production. And that idea was christened lean manufacturing by one of the researchers on the team back in 1988. But of course, it wasn't just philosophy just about making cars. It was an innovation approach which could apply everywhere, and has done. So it's diffused widely into services and products across a whole spectrum and right around the world. And it doesn't stop there. It applies just as much in the public sector. Fields like healthcare. In the National Health Service in Britain, for example, there is a major program, has been for some time, around lean thinking. And it even applies to the innovation process itself. The model we've been using for, the journey, actually we can improve that. Particularly, we can take the waste out of it. If you think about a startup, one of the real challenges is we haven't got any resources. So if we could use the few resources we have as carefully as possible, it would make sense. And essentially, applying those principles that began life in the car industry to that process of starting a new venture is powerful. The lean startup. So it gives us a powerful toolkit for finding and eliminating waste, and in terms of looking for innovation opportunities, there are plenty there. Now there's another way we can approach this searching for innovation opportunities, which is to learn from others. Other people doing the same thing as we are, but maybe a little better. So what's the explanation for the gap? So it's essentially learning through systematic comparison. What is it that others do that we don't, and that becomes a source of innovation? So we're talking here about tools like gap analysis or something called a value curve, where essentially, whether we're looking at products, services or processes, we can see some people have better curves, better ways of giving value to their users than others. And we can learn by analysing what makes up that gap. So it's essentially analysing, identifying, quantifying, and then catching up with whatever the moving frontier of innovation in that field actually is. One of the powerful tools in this space is something called benchmarking. Benchmarking is essentially a structured approach originally developed by the Xerox company, so another one of their innovations, which has spread widely around the world. But benchmarking provides a powerful methodology, a powerful toolkit to help us find sources of innovation.